Sly the wolf lived in the vast Yukon. It was a land of tall trees and snowy peaks. Sly was a clever wolf with a twinkle in his eye. He had one very big secret, a very shiny secret indeed. He loved gold more than anything in the whole wide world. Sly wasn't like the other wolves who hunted for caribou. He would watch the smaller animals, the squirrels and the marmots. Sometimes they found little bits of shiny gold. Sly, being very clever and a little bit naughty, would find ways to borrow this gold. He thought it looked much better in his collection, you see. His collection was hidden in a special place. It was a cozy hollow beneath the roots of an old spruce tree. Inside, the gold glowed warmly, even on the coldest Yukon day. Sly would spend hours just looking at his treasure. He would count it and polish it with his soft fur. He felt like the richest wolf in the world, and it was a wonderful feeling. One bright morning, the sun peeked over the mountains. Sly woke up with a happy stretch and a yawn. Today was a perfect day to visit his gold. He trotted along his secret path, his tail wagging. He hummed a little wolfy tune to himself. He imagined the lovely gleam of his treasure. He reached the old spruce tree, his special tree. He wriggled his way down into the cozy hollow, but then Sly's nose twitched. Something was different. Where was the warm glow? Where was the happy sparkle? His heart began to beat a little faster. He sniffed the air. It smelt of damp earth and pine needles, but not of his lovely gold. Sly poked his snout further into the hollow. It was empty, completely, utterly empty. His beautiful gold, his precious nuggets, his shiny flakes, all gone. A terrible feeling washed over Sly. It was a cold, empty feeling, much like the hollow itself. His shiny secret was gone, and Sly felt a great big emptiness inside him. Sly paced back and forth in front of the empty hollow. Who would dare to take his gold? He thought of all the animals in his part of the Yukon. The squirrels were too busy with nuts. The rabbits were too timid. The bears were interested in berries, not shiny things. It was a real puzzle, a very frustrating puzzle. He sniffed around the spruce tree for clues. He found a few scattered pine needles and a tiny, unfamiliar feather. Just then, he heard chattering from a nearby aspen tree. Two little squirrels were gossiping excitedly. "Did you hear?" squeaked one. "Someone found a whole pile of shiny stuff. They say it's heading all the way to Vancouver." Vancouver? Could his gold be in Vancouver? It was a big city, far to the south. A new idea sparked in Sly's clever mind. If his gold was in Vancouver, then he would go to Vancouver. He would pack a small bundle of berries for the trip. Vancouver, he thought. Here I come. As Sly began his journey the very next morning, the air was crisp and cool as he left his familiar Yukon forest behind. He traveled south, keeping the sun on his left shoulder in the mornings. The first day was through forests much like his own, filled with the scent of pine and damp earth. He missed his cozy den, and the thought of his missing gold made his paws feel heavy, but then he would remember its shine and his steps would quicken. On the second day, the trees began to change. They were different kinds, with broader leaves. The mountains in the distance looked a little softer, less jagged than his Yukon peaks. He met a family of beavers building a dam. They looked at him curiously, but Sly just nodded politely and kept walking. He was too focused on Vancouver and his lost treasure to stop for a long chat. The third and fourth days were a blur of walking. His paws ached a little, but Sly was a strong wolf. He crossed rushing rivers, carefully picking his way over slippery stones. He quickened his pace, his heart filled with hope and determination. As Sly finally arrived at the edge of what should have been a bustling city. But Vancouver looked very strange. He had heard stories from migrating birds about tall, shiny buildings that scraped the sky. Instead, many of the big buildings were gone. Some were just piles of rubble with weeds growing out of them. The air was quiet, too quiet for a big city. Sly tilted his head, puzzled. This was not the Vancouver he had pictured in his mind at all. He wandered cautiously through the changed streets. He saw a few other animals looking a bit lost and confused themselves. Then he saw a very large grizzly bear sitting near what looked like the remains of a park. The bear had kind eyes and a thoughtful expression. Sly approached him carefully. "Excuse me, Mr. Bear," Sly said politely. "I am Sly from the Yukon. I am looking for something very important that was brought here." The grizzly bear looked at Sly with a sigh. "Welcome to Vancouver, little wolf, or what's left of it," the bear rumbled, his voice deep. My name is Barnaby. Things are not as they once were here, as you can see. Barnaby gestured with a large paw towards a crumbled structure that might have once been a library. We've had a bit of a shake-up, you might say. Sly nodded politely as Barnaby the grizzly bear spoke of the city's troubles. He understood that missing buildings and finding food were very big problems. He truly did. He could see the worry in Barnaby's kind eyes. Any other time, Sly might have offered to help, perhaps using his cleverness to find new berry patches or safe dens. He was a resourceful wolf after all, but right now there was something far more pressing, something far more shiny, occupying his every thought. His gold! That sounds very difficult, Mr. Barnaby, Sly said, trying to be sympathetic. It is a shame about your tall buildings. They must have been very grand to see. He paused, then added, but you see, my gold is not just any trinket. It is very special. It's the most beautiful gold in all the world, and it was stolen from me. I've traveled all the way from the Yukon to find it. It is a matter of great importance to me. The greatest importance, in fact. Barnaby looked at Sly, a faint smile playing on his muzzle. He seemed to understand the little wolf's single-mindedness, even if he thought it was a bit misplaced given the circumstances. Gold, you say? Barnaby rumbled. Well, I haven't seen any piles of gold lying about. Barnaby the grizzly bear shook his great head slowly. I cannot help you with your gold, little wolf from the Yukon, he said, his voice gentle but firm. My concerns are for the well-being of the creatures who call this changed city home. We must work together to rebuild, to find new ways. Your quest for shiny stones seems a small thing in the face of all this. He gestured again to the broken landscape, the toppled structures, and the quiet, empty spaces where life once bustled. Sly listened, but his resolve did not waver one bit. He understood Barnaby's point of view. For the bear, the city's survival was paramount, but for Sly, his gold was his world. It represented his triumphs, his cleverness, his unique passion. Thank you for your time, Mr. Barnaby, Sly said, dipping his head respectfully. I understand your worries, but my gold is out there somewhere in this city and I must find it. It is my quest and I will not give up, not now, not ever. With a determined flick of his tail, Sly turned and trotted away from the wise old grizzly bear. The changed city of Vancouver spread out before him. A maze of unfamiliar paths and strange new sights. His adventure was far from over,